You looked at your bank balance this morning and felt the familiar knot of anxiety tighten in your chest. You believe that accumulating massive capital requires exceptional genius, relentless physical exertion, or blind luck. You surrendered to the idea that the wealthy possess a complex mathematical secret kept hidden from the desperate masses. The ruling class manufactured this illusion to keep you exhausted. The truth is an absolute insult to your daily struggle. Wealth is a cold, mechanical formula. Whoever applies cold calculation to their income builds a fortress while the crowd starves. In his 1531 book, Discourses on Livy, Niccolo Machiavelli observes a Roman general laying siege to an enemy city. The general refuses to send his infantry crashing against the thick stone walls. He knows that brute force wastes resources and bleeds his own army. He orders his men to dam the river flowing into the city. He waits in his tent for thirst to do the work. The general captures the territory by controlling the essential supply line, instead of swinging a sword. He understands that physical exertion is the tool of the expendable foot soldier. The ruling class uses this exact principle to extract your value. They convince you that working overtime and sweating harder will eventually lead to financial freedom. They want you swinging the sword against the wall while they sit in the tent. Effort subsidizes the owner. You fell for this trap last month when you volunteered for an extra weekend shift. You traded 40 hours of your physical youth for a linear increase in paper currency. You received the paycheck and felt a temporary burst of pride. You stopped earning money the second you walked out of the heavy glass doors. You lack an asset that prints money in the dark. Labor caps your ultimate potential. The illusion of hard work keeps the machine running, but stepping outside that machine requires neutralizing the social guilt that keeps you trapped. In his 1528 book, The Book of the Courtier, Baldassare Castiglione watches a wealthy Italian noble navigate a crowded banquet hall. The noble smiles at the desperate merchants begging for loans. He nods and listens to their tragic stories with a look of deep concern. He refuses every request without breaking his pleasant smile. He separates his emotional empathy from the mechanical reality of his capital. He understands that a man who funds the emergencies of his neighbors will soon share their poverty. He maintains his wealth by treating his treasury as a sealed vault. The modern market operates on the exact same ruthless math. The market does not care if you are a loyal friend or a generous neighbor. Empathy ruins the ledger. You bleed your own capital because you refuse to act with this cold detachment in your daily routine. You loan money to irresponsible relatives and pay premium prices to local businesses just to feel like a supportive community member. You allow your emotional attachments to dictate the flow of your irreplaceable energy. You treat your bank account as a tool for social validation rather than a loaded weapon. Guilt drains the vault. You sat across from a hiring manager last year and felt a desperate urge to be liked and accepted into their corporate family. You accepted a fraction of your true market value because you were afraid of creating a tense negotiation. You traded your financial future for a brief moment of social comfort. The company recorded record profits while you struggled to pay your winter heating bill. Fear dictates your discount. Suppressing your emotions seals the cracks in your armor. But acquiring the assets to fill the vault requires weaponizing time against the desperate crowd. In his year 100 historical text, Lives of the Noble Grecians and Romans, Plutarch details the strategy of the Roman commander Fabius Maximus. Fabius faces a massive invading army on an open field. He refuses to attack. He moves his troops into the high hills and burns the surrounding crops. He lets winter destroy the enemy. Fabius avoids the chaos of the immediate clash and lets the harsh environment erode the strength of his rival. He strikes only when the enemy is starving and desperate for an exit. The architecture of wealth demands this exact form of calculated delay. The manic crowd rushes into every new market trend and drives the prices into the clouds. The wealthy observer waits on the edge of the market, holding cash. Delay starves the desperate. You felt the intense pull of the manic crowd last year when your coworkers discussed a speculative digital token. You listened to their stories of massive overnight wealth and felt a desperate fear of missing the opportunity. You opened a trading application and prepared to gamble your hard-earned surplus on a wild rumor. You walked toward the cliff because you craved the approval of the blind herd. Boredom protects the heavy vault. You must learn to hover on the edges of the market, holding your small pile of cash. You wait for a sudden economic crash or a personal disaster to strike the over-leveraged participant. You offer fast cash to a person who has run out of time and options. You extract massive value from their sudden panic and misfortune. You buy the assets for a fraction of their true worth. Disaster creates the discount. Waiting for the crash secures the asset at the perfect price, but protecting that new wealth requires a masterful deception of your immediate surroundings. In his 1589 book, The Reason of State, Giovanni Botero examines a wealthy merchant living in an unstable European republic. The merchant owns a fleet of profitable trading ships. He lives in a house with peeling paint and wears a coat of coarse, faded wool. He walks through the muddy streets, looking exhausted. He weaponizes the appearance of poverty to make the tax collectors and the corrupt politicians ignore his existence. He operates in the dark shadows without drawing requests for loans or sudden government audits. The strategy of total failure is the ultimate shield for a growing treasury. When your income expands, the slightest display of success attracts predators who want a piece of the new surplus. Status alerts the predator. You fell for the status trap when you received your last promotion at the corporate office. You moved to a premium apartment and financed a superior vehicle within 3 months of the salary bump. You wanted your neighbors to witness your participation in the luxury market. You locked the golden cuffs around your own wrists. You must now work twice as hard just to maintain the appearance of success. Upgrades erase your leverage. You must learn to project the illusion of harmlessness while acquiring territory in the shadows. You smile at your manager, agree with the corporate policies, and appear dedicated to the company vision. Behind that mask, you funnel every available dollar into aggressive investments that serve your own empire. You drive the older car and complain about the high cost of groceries. You let your neighbors feel superior. Deception funds the escape. Deceiving the crowd protects you from petty theft, but securing the empire against the massive institutional predators requires constructing a labyrinth of legal paper. In his 1755 book, Essay on the Nature of Trade in General,
Richard Cantillon examines a cunning merchant operating in Paris. The merchant runs a dangerous overseas shipping operation that faces constant threat of pirates and brutal storms. He does not put his personal family estate at risk to fund the ships.
He creates a separate legal entity to hold the risky shipping contracts. When a massive storm sinks 3 of his heavy cargo vessels, the royal creditors come looking for payment. They find the shipping entity completely bankrupt, but they cannot touch the merchant's private gold hidden in his personal vault. He weaponized the legal structure to sever his personal survival from his business failures. The system rewards those who compartmentalize their risk. Paper defends the vault.
You operate with the exact opposite mentality every time you attach your personal signature to a massive institutional loan. You signed a personal guarantee for your expensive vehicle and linked your actual survival to a piece of depreciating metal. If you lose your corporate job tomorrow, the bank possesses the legal right to destroy your personal credit and seize your assets. You carry the entire weight of the risk on your own shoulders. Signatures invite the blade.
The wealthy never expose their actual skin to the blade of the open market. They build invisible corporate shields and limited liability structures that absorb the devastating impacts. If the venture fails, the paper shield shatters, but the individual walks away without a single scratch. You must learn to separate your personal identity from the financial structures you operate in the market. You must build the paper labyrinth before you accumulate the heavy gold. Liability demands isolation.
Isolating your risk guarantees your survival when the storm hits, but escaping the cycle entirely requires building a mechanism that duplicates your value without your physical presence. In his 1377 book, The Muqaddimah, Ibn Khaldun observes a powerful desert chieftain organizing a new settlement. The chieftain does not carry the heavy stone blocks or dig the irrigation trenches. He assigns the brutal physical labor to the displaced wanderers seeking his protection. He claims ownership of the completed wells.
The chieftain extracts continuous value from the physical exhaustion of other men. He owns the mechanism of production, rather than operating the machine himself. He converts his surplus capital into a legal structure that captures the harvest of the passing seasons. Wealth is the separation of the financial return from the physical labor. If your income requires you to be awake and moving, you are still inside the trap. Ownership delegates the suffering.
You stared at the wrong side of this equation last month when you fell sick. You stayed in your bed and watched your daily income drop to absolute zero. You realized that your survival is tied directly to your ability to stand upright and produce. You lack a system that generates revenue while you stare at the ceiling. The modern plantation relies on your inability to sell without your physical body. Presence is a poverty trap. You must convert your hidden surplus into aggressive soldiers that capture new territory while you sleep. You buy ownership in the massive corporations that produce the goods you consume. You purchase dividend-yielding assets that deposit cash into your account without asking for your permission. You build a digital product that solves a specific problem and sells it to a global market at midnight. You step out of the physical equation. Assets replace the muscle.
Building wealth is a cold, mechanical process that requires the total suppression of your fragile ego. You must stop trying to prove your worth to people who view you as a disposable tool. When you separate your emotions from the mathematics of accumulation, the path out of the maze becomes clear. The ruling class left the exit door unguarded because they assumed you were too distracted by the noise to turn the heavy handle.
The character from the historical court shared his ruthless methods only with those who stepped into the shadows to learn the brutal truth. Something on this screen keeps you standing in those shadows. Every significant outcome in your life followed one decision made after realizing the map you were handed was fake. This is one of those distinct moments. What you do with this is the only question left.